Welcome. Today is Wednesday of the fourth week of Advent. The 4 candles are lit in the Advent wreath. We're on the last chapter of Tabitha's Travels by Arnold Retreated. Today is part 4. Eliakim bowed before Coponius and then stood and told his story. It happened 4 years ago, he began, in the desert of the Negev. We were camped some distance from Gerar, near the road to Bir Lahai. I was riding my camel at sunset, scouting between the dunes, when I saw a small caravan in the distance. I rode toward them, thinking they perhaps needed my help. Eliakim took a deep breath and then continued. The caravan was a small band of Romans, a few soldiers, a few advisors and priests, and a man who seemed to be the center of authority. Pacing now, Eliakim rubbed his bearded chin, but was careful never to turn his back on Coponius. As I approached, I asked if I could help, he continued. One of the advisors mocked me and said they needed no help from a Jew. He started them off in a direction that I knew would lead them deep into the wilderness, so I followed at a distance. Soon a sandstorm hit, blinding the Romans and spooking their animals. When I heard the clamor, I rode ahead and found the man of authority wandering on foot far from the rest of the caravan. Eliakim stopped his pacing and looked straight at Coponius. He had been thrown from his horse and was limping. I laid my camel down for shelter and made a tent of blankets. I cared for his ankle and fed him well. We spent the night listening to the sand devils make their play. That's when he told me his name, Caesar Augustus. A gasp crossed the room, and everyone stared in disbelief. We talked of many things throughout the night, Eliakim continued. He was a curious man, interested in many things, interested especially in King Herod. Coponius's eyebrows shot up in curiosity. And what did you tell him? He asked. Eliakim shrugged. I told him the truth as I knew it. Coponius nodded. And his reply? Tabitha thought her father seemed uncomfortable at the question, and she noticed he shifted his weight and looked at the floor, but she also saw a hint of a smile on his face. He said, Eliakim answered after a few moments, that he would rather be one of Herod's pigs than one of his sons. The whole room erupted in laughter, including Coponius. And with that, I would agree, he said. Continue. In the morning, Eliakim concluded, I gathered his advisors who had scattered across the desert like seeds in the wind. Then I set them on a true course. But before they left, Augustus the Great made me a citizen of Rome and wrote for me in his own hand the parchment you now hold in yours. Coponius stared at the parchment reverently. Augustus touched this very parchment, his look seemed to say. Tabitha watched as he carefully re-rolled the document and then slid the binding ribbon back in place. It is an honor to have in my presence one who both knows and saved my emperor, he said, handing the parchment back to Eliakim. Had we not just feasted, I would hold a great banquet in your honor. Eliakim bowed again, and Coponius continued, You shall have the protection of my best squad in all your travels, he declared, and shall be given whatever provision you need. But first, Coponius said, consent to stay with me a few days, that I may properly thank you for your service to Rome. Eliakim bowed once more. This was a difficult situation, Tabitha could tell, because he could offend the Roman by refusing his invitation. Be careful, father, she pleaded silently. If you answer wrong, you may still die. Consider this. Eliakim had compassion on his enemy, even though he had no idea it would one day save his life. Do you think Jesus wants us to love other people only when it might someday be to our advantage?